Hi, I'm Danger Dan Jers, the host and GM of the D&D Real Play podcast, D&D Dark. Join us on Wednesdays for an absurd, over-the-top comedy horror adventure, starring some of history's most infamous monsters.
I'm Ben Magnet. I play Mary Frankenstein, our barbarian.
I am Daniel Cruz. I am playing Imhotep the Mummy, our cleric.
I'm Jordan, and I play Larry Talbot, a lycanthropic warlock.
I am Grayson, playing Jet Griffin, the Invisible Man, the party's rogue.
I am Aaron. I play the Phantom of the Opera, our bard.
For more information, go to dndarkpodcast.com and listen to us anywhere you find podcasts.
Hey everybody, I would like to welcome you to another episode of Pop Culture Gems. This is a series where we talk to amazing creators, artists, cosplayers, voice actors, and so much more. If you like the interviews we do with our terrific guests, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel, the CFG channel. We also release Pop Culture Gems on all podcast services like Apple, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Podbean, all sorts of types out there. Or go to our main website, confreaksandgeeks.com, to not miss an episode. Today, I am speaking to an incredible legend in the voice acting field. She has been in the VO game for over 30 years. If you grew up in the 90s and watched the cartoon show, odds are you have heard her voice. She has played nearly 700 roles, putting her in the Guinness Book of World Records as playing the most female voiceover roles out there. She has played
in video games. Yeah.
I'm sorry, yes, video games. There you go. And she has played Rivet from Ratchet and Clank, Female Shepard from Mass Effect, Ash in Overwatch, Miss Keen from Powerpuff Girls, and so much more. I would like to welcome Jennifer Hale to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm great, Davies. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And hi, everybody. Welcome. Glad you're here.
Yes, thank you. I was like, I had to take off my nerd hat, and I was like, kind of fangirl. And I just sent it out. I'm like, oh my god, I get to interview you. It's awesome. She's definitely putting a check mark on my list right now.
Oh, that's super cool to hear. Thank you.
Yes. So like, I always ask this for all for everybody, but what is your story? Like, what got you into the voice acting game?
I literally fell into it. I went to a fine arts high school. Regular high school wouldn't have worked for me. That just wasn't a fit. And I went to the fine arts high school. So I was already learning how to speak acting stuff, how to speak without an accent because I lived down south. And I ended up getting a job at a video production studio that was next door to an audio studio. And they asked me to come next door and do a Valley Girl because I think a friend of mine's mom had told them that I could do that. And then they paid me and I was blown away. And I was like, what? You paid me for that? And so I got the bug and I just pursued it like a business. That's what drew me to it. It was fun. I understood it. It felt natural to me and quick to me, and I could earn a living, which was super appealing, even though I was still like in high school, but I was like, I want to do this. And so I got mentors. My key was I got mentors, and I just kept asking them what to do next and paying them for their time and doing what they said. I just did what they said. And I eventually went door to door, cold calling ad agencies and stuff. And that was in Birmingham, built up a business in Birmingham, then started commuting back and forth to Atlanta where films and stuff were. And I got my first film audition and I booked it and I really enjoyed it. And then I eventually moved out to LA to pursue the on-camera stuff. And I worked, but not enough to support myself full time. And so I ended up a couple years in going, I should make a voiceover tape. And I did. And then boom, my first audition was the callbacks for Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego for the role of Ivy. And I booked it. And I was not even allowed to watch cartoons as a kid. So I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I'm just going to guess here and let's just see what happens. Yeah. So that's my kind of quick origin story.
Oh my God. Wait, it was like, well, first off, so like you had a taste of it in high school, then later on you came back to it?
Oh no, I started then. As soon as I did my first gig, because I should back up. I was a singer first. I started singing in rock clubs when I was 15. And so I had, vocal training and stuff, and I had the discipline to practice and show up. And so I immediately after that first job, I just started asking questions and pursuing it and pursuing it and pursuing it and pursuing it on the side. And then by the time I was in like my, I think, second year of college, it became my full-time job. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing, especially
Yeah.
during that time though, just to get
Yeah.
in. That's awesome.
Yeah. There were no agents where I lived in Birmingham, and I had to create my own business. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's even actually more impressive is that you said you found people that mentored you, and I mean, because like during that time, I mean, I can only imagine it must have been it wasn't that hard easy to do something like that, right?
Well, they were it was Greg and Courtney and Nancy, and they ran the local studio, and I just kept asking them, what do I do next? And actually, I've got my skillshub.life mug here, and that's the same principle that I founded this on was like, okay, people who are experts at this, buy some of their time, ask them what to do, and then go do what they said. It's super, super straightforward. Just
Oh wow.
that's what you do. And I just started doing that from the get-go. I think I was like 18 by the time I, donned a suit and put my hair up in a bun and started going down the list, cold calling ad agencies. It was nauseating, but I made myself do it because that's what you have to do, right?
You gotta get that grind. It's the grind, man.
It's the
That's
grind.
how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally understandable.
It's a business. People forget this. It is not a show up, be fabulous and lightning will strike you. It's a business. It's show up, do the work. Show up, do the work. Show up, do the work. Oh, shiny moment. Show up, do the work. Like that's the job. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
I mean, and you said earlier that you originally was a singer, and I knew initially that you wanted to be a singer when you first started your career and release, and you did release your first singles in 2020. Like, was there a driving force that made you like want to release your music like this recently? Like, I mean,
I think I finally got a minute to breathe. Michelle Bobak, who's just a lovely, lovely voice actress and person, and she's like, we're gonna get your song out there. And so we recorded it actually a couple years earlier down in LA, and I moved out of LA, and something in me just went, okay, it's time. And I finally decided to release the song. And then Phil Lamar, who's another brilliant voice actor, his son Isaac is a wonderful musician, and I called him. He was at university, and I was like, hey, how do you distribute a song? And he's like, well, I use this platform and it's really good. And I was like, sweet, thank you. And that's the whole story. Like, okay, someone just told me how to do it. And so I was like, again, find someone who knows how to do it, be reciprocal with your exchange for their time, and I really appreciated it. It was amazing. Yeah. And then, so that was the first song. It was called Never. And right around that time, Christopher Paolini had reached out and asked me to do the audiobook for his new Fractal Verse, which is a brilliant universe. And the first book he released was To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. And he had heard Never, and he asked me if I would consider writing a song for the book. And I went, never thought of that, but I'd love to. So having never written for hire, I reached out to my friend Todd Herfindahl, who does write for hire all the time. And I was like, Todd. And so he came up with a framework, and then together we wrote and co-produced. And then I sang Sea of Stars, and I sang it here in my home studio. It was like 10:30 at night. I just did what I thought was a scratch track with a bunch of ideas, and Todd wove it all together. And then we went back and forth on ideas and tweaks and things. And that is the song Sea of Stars, which I just love that song so much.
Yeah, man, that is awesome. It's kind of funny. I'm kind of seeing the trend here that you're like, you surround yourself with people that like you're saying, surround yourself with people that makes whatever you touch fairly successful though. I mean,
well,
it's just
it makes it complete. Like the success of it's going to be what it's going to be. Right. But I think we don't do stuff alone. This self-made thing, yeah, sure. By definition, I'm a self-made person. I did not come from any kind of, affluence. I came from opportunity because I look white. I'm not completely white, but I read as white, and I had a university education and that sort of thing. And that's a huge advantage in this world. But every single cent that I have, I made it happen. Right. And so, but I didn't do it alone. And I don't think we do things. Again, I'm coming back here to this, this site that, my sister and I started with our friend Bill. You don't do stuff alone. I've realized that about myself. I have a certain very specific skill sets. I'm full of ideas and full of thoughts and full of energy and impulses, and follow through is often difficult. And so partnering with people who can do it with oneself, I find super effective. And I go in and out of those partnerships. Like, I need to be by myself to do this part. Okay, now I need to come back in and get this piece. And then I go back away and be by myself. And the thing with building a voiceover career, a voice acting career, is if you knew how to do it, you'd have already done it. And I'm a huge fan of a shortcut. I'm a huge fan of, do you want to really spend all that time and make all those mistakes? Or do you want to just learn from somebody who's already made the mistakes and then go forward and make a new set of mistakes, like, that are just further down the road? You'll get there faster when you work in community with people.
Yeah,
And I'm a solo person. Sorry. I'm very much one of those introvert extroverts. I need my time by myself, but I still need to dip in and get fuel and direction and focus and then head back out,
yeah.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's like, yeah. So basically, it's like, it's not like you're. I mean, you may be introvert extrovert, but at the same time, though, you definitely recognize that you can't do it by yourself, and you also, and like, basically being open. If you're very open to criticism or that kind of level of things, to be like to make you a better person, then I definitely understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
that's humility, right? Like, to think that you know how to do something before you've put in the time to do it is, for me, that experience feels arrogant. And yeah, like, what? Yeah, nope. I'm a work in progress, and I always will be. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that I found very different between you and other like voice actors is, like, just in general, I mean, your incredible drive that you throughout your career, and I mean, you've made an outstanding name for yourself in the voiceover world. However, you are known for so much more, like we were just saying a minute ago, singer, songwriter, podcaster, entrepreneur, just in general. Like, I mean, like, you were talking about your skills hub, that life, which, by the way, I have checked it out, and I'm like, wow, this is very fascinating. I definitely love the
so glad.
ideas and stuff. Very cool.
Thank you.
Yes. So, like, I mean, but like, doing all of that, I mean, like, what gives you the energy to keep grinding the way that you do? Like, it's incredibly impressive.
Oh, I mean, it's not a constant thing, because I don't know about you, but I have this tendency to get excited about everything, commit to way too many things, and then I face plant, and I have to stop and recover for a while. And I've just learned about myself, like, I have to force recovery before it hit the wall, because that way I have, ironically, less downtime. The more downtime I take, the less downtime I need. You know what I mean? Like, if I stop and just pause, catch my breath, clear my head, I can have a much steadier pace. I mean, I don't know. I think life's pretty cool. My early years, I had a very, very, very tough childhood, very tough in terms of my home life, very tough in terms of, like, the experience of bullied and all that sort of thing. And I had a time in my early teen years where being alive was extremely difficult. And that carried over into my early 20s for a little while. And then I was able, very fortunately, to like, well, it wasn't just a gift somebody handed me. I went out and pursued healing. I pursued it with a vengeance, with the desperation of those who deeply need it, and was able to connect to just how incredible it is to be alive. It's just so cool. I've spent a lot of time researching longevity and health and things like that, because I really do want to stay as long as I possibly can. I just think it's so cool. And fortunately, ideas just keep coming to me, and I have a visceral sense of the connectedness of all things and the possibilities that are out there. And I live with, the upside of growing up with a family with really awful boundaries was, like, all things are possible. That's the upside. Like, sure, why not? Like, yes, I can, 100%. Yeah, that's kind of, I don't know. It's just, I'm very lucky.
But that sounds very. That sounds pretty great. I mean, it sounds like you had a very good, like, fairly. I'm not saying that. Like, everyone may have had a rough childhood. A rough childhood, but, like, it sounds like overall you kind of had a positive safety net on kind of supporting what you're wanting to do overall, though, right?
Yeah, I built that, though. I mean, I grew up, talking about connection. I think one of the reasons I value it so much is I grew up quite isolated, and I really understand the value of connection. It's it's been something that's been a long time coming to figure out how to do it in a way that doesn't slam me into anxiety. But it's I built it, and I will say for people out there who deal with kind of a negative mindset that they find slows them down and is difficult, don't feel bad. This was not something a genie came and handed me.
Mm.
I literally consciously built this, and you can too. If you choose to. If it's something that you want, you can do it. I remember there was a time in my mid-20s when I really got present to how much mental trash I had going on, and it was disheartening and discouraging. And I just decided, okay. For every negative that my brain latches onto, like a what if this or what about that, I'm going to manually install 3 positives. I'm going to manually go, that's only one way it could go. This could be true, that could be true, or that could be true. Whether it's a thought about myself, whether it's what people think of me, whether it's what's going to happen, whether it's what just happened. And I forced myself to the point where I would find myself having a negative thought, and I'd be like, "Oh, no. No. Now I have to do this stupid exercise with the 3 positives," And I just did it. I kept doing it until I trained myself into a newer, better feeling way of thinking, and that's ongoing. There's still places where I have a pinned post on Instagram and Twitter that is about your attention. And your attention really is one of the most powerful tools you have, and it's always going somewhere.
Mhm.
Most of the time, we don't even know where it's going. We just find ourselves feeling a certain way, and it's because guess what? That little monkey ran down an icky path, and now you feel like life's icky. It's just because your brain went on a little trip down there. It's fiction, so rewrite the fiction that feels better. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
the way
I
you're
know.
describing it sounds awesome. It's really
Yeah,
it's
that's
really
just
really good.
that's just my take on it, like, it's worth what you paid for it, right?
Well,
So,
it
yeah.
just it just seems like you always are trying to improve yourself throughout everything that's been going on you're
Well,
making everything like somewhat of a learning moment, So that's what
yeah,
it
well,
sounds like.
I realized a while back that when anyone walks in a room, their energy walks in that room with them. So are you walking around as a cloud, or are you walking around as a light, or are you walking around neutral? Are you walking around as a dark dagger? Like, what are you walking around as? And you're free to do whatever you want, but choose it. And I realized I did not want to walk in as a dark cloud or a space sucking vortex of need and insecurity. Like, I just wanted to walk in as a contribution or in neutral. And so I did that work to sort of begin to take hold of that. And look, that's a lifelong process, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's a lifelong
Definitely.
deal. That's part of it. It's unfair of us to expect ourselves to get that one down pat. Like, I know very few entities on this planet that have that down pat. I do know one, but only one. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah.
You once described video game voice acting as acting on steroids. Like what makes playing a role in gaming, voice acting in gaming so demanding?
So many things. I'll start with the sheer volume of what we're doing and add to that the fact that it is voice acting, which means you're acting in a void. Like, if I'm in this room, I don't have a scene partner in here. The other person's in my imagination, unless we're fortunate enough to record at the same time, which happens in animation sometimes, but it very rarely happens in games. And I also have to keep my face in this little. You can hear how much better the sound got once I got right on axis. Like,
Yeah.
I can't leave this axis. It's a little 3-inch box, and I got to stay right in here. Little cube. I got to stay right in the cube, right there. And all this can move, but this all has to be silent. How you dress is very specific. But you don't have the benefit of props, scenery, lighting to strike the mood. In games, you don't even have the luxury of going in sequence most of the time. Because
Wow.
if this is the timeline of the cinematic story, you'll do a moment from here, and then right after that, a moment from here, and then a moment from here, and then a moment from here, then back to here, maybe 2 or 3 over here, 2 or 3 over here, because you're flowing based on the technical needs and demands of the game, because those are massive. What the team needs is huge.
Mhm.
So I never worry. I never complain about going out of sequence or whatever. I'm like, just give me context, because you don't have context. You're really heavily dependent on those incredible people called voice directors to give you your context in each and every line and each and every situation, right? And the other thing too in games specifically is that 90% of the time it's cold reading. I don't see that script. The entirety of, Mass Effect, certainly, and many, many other games, I saw the words to be acted as soon as we got to that line. First time I'd ever seen them.
What? Really? Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
So they don't give you like a script. They don't give you the script in advance. They just give it to you then and there on what they're wanting
Yep.
you to say.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's game acting, though. That's the deal. You have to be an excellent cold reader. You have to trust your instincts enough just to jump. You got to just make decisions, and you got to make super clear decisions and go for it. Alternatively, when you do get a script, you got to do your homework. You got to, you can do homework ahead of time. Like, what's the universe? What's the company? What kind of stuff do they do? Do they give me any information to go off of? Do that homework, and then don't complain or anxiety over. Anxiety is not a verb, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Or allow the indulgence of becoming anxious over what you don't know. Accept exactly where the situation is, because you only have so much energy to spend in any given situation. And if you tie your energy up with like, but I don't know this, and what if that, and oh my God, you're burning all your bandwidth. Just stay in neutral. Just stay at zero. That exercise I referred to earlier about, subbing out the better feeling thoughts. Some days I couldn't even get to the better feeling thoughts, so I would just go to zero. I would just practice neutral. What is it like just to go to neutral? So I recommend neutral as a great tool when you're getting that pre-performance anxiety. Like, you don't know, just be a goldfish. I don't know what. Oh, did that happen? Oh, okay. Just go to neutral.
Big old, was that
Yeah.
Ted
Yeah.
Lasso?
Ted Lasso, man. I love me some Lasso. Anybody who knows
Oh.
me knows that I'm a huge, ridiculous Ted Lasso fan.
Oh, I love Ted
Yeah.
Lasso.
Oh my
Just finished
God. Nobody's life. Yes.
it.
And Roy.
Oh.
God, I love him.
Well, like, I was just thinking to myself when you were like kind of on the thinking in examples. Like, I know you played the main bad guy, Chronica, in Mortal Kombat 11 a couple of years, and I'm just thinking to myself, just being a Mortal Kombat actor, about the massive different ways a person will die in that game, like stabbed and all this stuff like that. It's just like, I just about the amount of yelling, the amount of different kinds of punctures and hits and impacts. I'm like, in the hours. I can only imagine like hours at the booth or something like that, right? So
Yeah, that's
that's
definitely part of it. That's why you have to stay vocally fit, right? You got to keep your, I post a lot on socials, being outside, hiking, walking, doing whatever, because our body's our instrument. And if you don't have a body you can count on, when I teach on Skills Hub, one of the things I teach my people who come through is build twice the breathing capacity you think you're going to need. Because when you first start going to sessions or showing up at auditions, half of it is going to disappear when you walk in the door, because your nervous system's going to hijack it, because you're anxious or you're nervous or you're excited or whatever. So you have to build past your capacity and come back. So doing things like, vocally stressful stuff, you're going to need that capacity there as well.
Wow. Oh, okay. That's really good. Really good advice there. And I just lost my place. Here it is. Okay, sorry.
No worries. This is fabulous. I love this conversation.
This is great. And thank you. Is there a character that you played? Is there a character like in your career that you played that you may have felt like, it was underrated by fans, that may have missed how awesome or cool that they were?
Oh my gosh. I don't think of things in those terms. There are characters that I love. Like, I think the Hex Girls should have gotten their own series from Scooby-Doo. That would have been so amazing.
I'm actually surprised that they didn't, because the way that they were advertised, because it was a movie, right? It was made for home.
It was a home video. Yeah, it was direct to video.
Yeah.
It was. I think the Hex Girls should have their own show, because we can all still do it. Kimberly and Jane and I, we are ready.
Yeah, I remember like when they were on that high on like releasing these Scooby-Doo movies and stuff, like animated movies, and I was like, oh, okay. The way that they did, I don't know why specifically Hex Girls comes to mind, but like the way that they advertised Hex Girls, I thought that I was like, oh, okay, there must be a thing like the Josie and the Pussycats kind of thing, or I don't know, but wow, I
know, like we need our own, like I'm still ready anytime.
That was I'm not gonna lie though, I didn't watch it, but
it's okay. But, a lot of people really enjoyed it, and I'm so glad.
See, that's good. And what roles do you like to play more? Are you more protagonist or antagonist, and why?
Oh, I'm gonna again do a non-answer answer on this one because it's the truth. I love being the protagonist because I don't know about anybody else, but I sure do love that feeling that I got to make it right. I got to fix the situation and make it right. That is some addictive stuff right there. But I also really love playing antagonists because so often their window of behavior is pretty wide. You can choose some scenery, you can be super crazy, and it feels good to spend some hours acting like you would never dare act in the real world because it's so counter to your values, right? It's so much fun. So I did a show recently. They're pulling all their PR materials together now. It's an animated show. And I am just a terrible villain, and she's over the top, and I got to sing and freak out, and oh my God, it was a blast. Yeah.
I can only imagine because protagonists have to kind of read, but they have a set of rules and guidelines they have to set themselves out to be. But being antagonist, you're beyond that. You can do whatever the heck you're wanting, whatever the heck you're wanting to be.
The moral compass is wherever you want it to point. Yeah,
exactly. Well, how about this way? Okay, so with your character, female shepherd from Mass Effect, would you go on the positive or the negative side?
Man, I'd probably mix it up, but I probably would enjoy a nice renegade run. I have to say, because I always say, Paragon's who I wish I was, and Renegade's what I wish I could say. So it'd be fun just to say whatever you wanted for an entire run. That would be a blast. Yeah.
Well, if only you could have both. That's right? That's just how it sounds like. Yes.
Yes.
And when the Guinness Book of World Records officially named you the most roles of a female video game voice actor, how did you take that? I mean, did it come out of nowhere, or because I just can't even imagine.
It really did. Well, because here's the thing, and fortunately, this has come more to the forefront in the last few years because it's been a few years, and I think I still sit on that seat. But when it first happened, women didn't really get the notice that men do. I don't have a plaque. I don't have anything. I just found out about it on Twitter. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I picked up the copy of the magazine that it came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's for real. That's super cool. Because Steve Bloom got the male award at the same time. And I think there is more work out there especially at that time. There was a ton more work out there for men than women. So he has the official number above all, but they named me the most prolific female, but no fanfare, no nothing. But I'm used to that because it came up in the time. That's the thing. I've been very privileged to be to put on my boots and kick down doors, to break trends and things like that. And that is one of my favorite things about my entire career. And so you get used to the way that you're treated in those times. You just get used to it. You don't accept it. I don't accept it, but I'm not going to get pissed off and argue and waste my energy over complaining. I'm just going to get to work. We're just going to fix it. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I do see your point. I mean, I think that's a very good point to really to come across on that but just to say that they didn't even celebrate, you just found that off as a secondhand note from Twitter is a little, I mean, that's pretty disrespectful. I had to get in myself on that, but
yeah, I'm not gonna take it personally, and I disagree with how people in general do those things, but that's okay.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I thought that they were
still have it. They can't take it away.
But I find it very interesting though, because it's just someone, because I mean, I know you probably weren't keeping track of all the roles that you were doing. I mean, through this, and then that someone out there acknowledges the fact that you're oh my God, it's she's at this many, and they still to that they're like, okay, yeah, let's just let her know that she's in it, but that's it. Oh, okay.
They didn't. Somebody on Twitter, somebody else. It wasn't them.
It wasn't even them.
Yeah, no. One of my fans on Twitter was like, "Oh, hey, look at this," and maybe they posted it. I have no idea. Nobody got in touch with me directly about it. They probably did post it because how else would that person have known? And they put it in the magazine, which was super cool. And I have to say, I do appreciate that very much. That was super cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay,
Yeah.
No, well, I'm not gonna make anything, anything out of it.
Thankfully, times are evolving, and people who come up nowadays have a bit of a different experience, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. And I would and I would personally love. I would love your take, because I know you're a member of the of SAG-AFTRA, and then the most recent SAG-AFTRA strike that's still currently, I believe, it's still currently happening right now for the actor side, right? And then now they've gotten the approval for voice actors, video game voice actors, if they don't get what they're wanting, that they can also go get on strike. But it actually kind of made me wonder, because the big thing of the strike is AI is a big topic of it, of what's going on and what they're doing in it. But like, I was curious, like, how significant is the threat of AI in the world of voice acting currently now?
Well, here's the thing. It's significant in the world at large. Remember the movie Terminator? Remember
Yes.
Terminator?
Mm-hmm.
Remember Skynet?
Skynet. It is Skynet.
Remember Skynet?
Yes.
This is Skynet, guys.
Yes.
And the thing is that there are people out there making ridiculous amounts of money off of AI. Some of them are individuals creating new businesses. Super cool, super interesting. Many of them are large corporations positioning to take advantage of this and rake in stacks of cash. And that may be careless of me to say it that way, but that's how I experience it from out here. And part of the way they're going to make that cash is by replacing humans with AI. Their profit margins are going to go up extraordinarily. I don't see any of them setting aside a fund to create a universal basic income for all those people they displaced out of those giant extra profits coming into their coffers. I don't see anybody doing that. So AI is coming for all of us. If you were a corporate overlord and you wanted to rule more of the world, you wouldn't get machine guns and robots to fight and shoot people. You would economically devastate them when they weren't looking quietly behind the scenes, making it look snazzy and cool, and just take them out that way. Then we're very well equipped to fight back. So we just happen to be visible on the front lines right now. But there's so many people out there. Look at artists, look at writers who don't have union protections, look at voice actors who don't have union protections. Like, we all have to stand up. Thank God for this organization, NAVA. It's the North American Voice Actors Association. And I think I got that right, but NAVA, NAVA.org. They are, or I think it's NAVA Voices is what they call themselves. Incredibly powerful organization run by incredible people, and they are fighting for everybody, union and non-union, to have consent to their voice being used, compensation for their voice being used, and control over where their voice is being used. And I'm sorry, if you use mine or anyone else's voice without their permission, you have stolen from us. The law will eventually come down on that side, I believe. I have faith that it will. But to anyone wanting to take advantage of that in that gap, no respect. Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. So we are all responsible for how we use AI. We're all responsible for what we do with AI. And AI is just a tool. What are we going to do with that tool? We're going to stab people or cut up their food and feed them. What are we going to do? And that's an individual decision. I have never reposted an AI-generated piece of art ever that I'm ever aware of. If I have, I will take it down today, because it bothers me. I'm not putting artists out of work. It's not right. It's not right. I'm not stealing somebody else's style. It's wrong. Until the day comes when we all, like, some of this money goes into a coffer somewhere and people are taken care of universally, then we can all just play with the creative tools. Sign me up. But until then, that's not how the world's set up right now.
But I'm just amazed about the level of pushback that some of these studios are kind of giving back on it. I mean, because in my mind, when I read everything that was going down, I thought logically it's like, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Why would you have the voice actor just do something and then you being the studio saying, oh, we're going to replace, instead of paying the person again for another role, we'll just use her voice's likeliness and just sell for AI. I mean, logically, it doesn't make any sense to me.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work, because what really wins people's hearts over in a game or a show or anything else is the expression of the human soul. And I'm sorry, you can make a line sound really good, like a good delivery, but it's not going to grab you in your soul. It might grab you in your fear, might grab you in your sense memory, but it's not going to get your soul. And that's what humans bring to the party. It's very short-sighted. That's part of why I don't want my work out there in AI, because it's going to be a substandard performance. And I don't want I'm not doing that. I'm not putting that out there. Right. Unless I have consent, compensation, and control. And I've agreed, like, okay, it will work here. That doesn't bother me. We can do that. Yes. Like, no, it's ridiculous. Yeah. No, there's so many issues around it. They're just so many. And I think this is the time that we're at in technology. And the fact is, the people who are making those decisions aren't making them through the lens of humanity. They're making them through the lens of profit. And if you look at, this is another one of I know on Instagram, it's a pinned post, which is in the 1960s, the average CEO salary was about 20 times employee wages. Like, okay, look, you go through what you need to go through to start a company. Trust me, I get it. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. You do without a salary for a long time to get something that you think will help people off the ground. I get that. Totally. That seems like a decent margin. In the 1980s, it was 40-something to 1. $40-something to every $1 that an employee made. You want to guess what it is today?
Today, with everything inflated, I'm assuming like 200, 250. I don't know.
399 to 1. The average CEO makes $399 for every dollar their employee makes. And this is at a time when, like, some of these huge corporations, your Amazons, your Walmarts, are not even giving their employees basic benefits, which means that, I know in the US structure specifically, when those people aren't getting medical benefits or they're not quite paid enough to make their bills, they then have to go and lean on social assistance. Those are government programs like, food assistance and, housing assistance sometimes, and certainly medical assistance, or they go bankrupt. That government help, who pays for that? You and me.
Yeah.
You and I have subsidized Walmart and Amazon with our tax dollars, but I don't see my shareholder check. I don't see anybody giving me a share of that company that I help run. And this is the insane thing. New pharmaceutical medicines, drugs are routinely made with government grants or government funding. Routinely. I've never heard of a pharmaceutical paying the government back for that R&D.
Never.
But they rake in the bucks on the other end, and they up charges for the medicine that we paid for. That's insane.
They double dip.
Yeah. And this all goes back to, this honestly does fold back into the strike, because when is it enough? And it's like Elysium. All those CEOs are in this sort of bubble layer, comparing their salaries to each other's salaries, going, well, Joe over there, I'm gonna beat him in the game. And they have lost sight of all the people who make it possible. I saw this video. I think it was on Twitter. I couldn't watch the whole thing because it moved my attention to a place that was not productive. This CEO at its meeting of CEOs, he was an Australian guy, and he was talking about how employees are getting too cocky and they need to be taught a lesson that they need us. We don't need them. And I'm like, wow,
that's insane.
You're insane. You're like some badly written Marvel villain. Like, you need to just shush, because no, you've lost your mind. Yeah. I mean, did they not, does Bastille Day not ring a bell? Like, there was an article written several years ago by a really smart billionaire, Nick Hanauer. He, I believe, lives somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, and he's taken his billions and used it for good. For example, he was behind a lot of the research into the $15 an hour minimum wage in Seattle. He funded studies and things to see, all right, everybody's freaking out that it's going to drown small business. Let's track it. Let's see what happens. And in fact, it did not tank small business. It actually helped and grew. But he wrote an article years ago called "The Pitchforks Are Coming." And it was from a zillionaire to his fellow zillionaires. He's a plutocrat. I had to look that up. It means somebody wealthy enough to influence public policy. And he's like, guys, we got to stop this. This is not people. The pitchforks are coming. Like the title says it all. And I'm like, okay, don't say I didn't warn you. It's just not, like you said, it's not common sense. It doesn't make sense. It's not sustainable. Everybody goes to the friggin' Darwin thing, survival of the fittest. And this goes back to like the beginning of my career, what we were talking about. A friend of mine has an anthropology degree, and she's read that book a couple times at least, that text. And she said everybody talks about survival of the fittest, and that's mentioned maybe half a dozen times in that text. What's mentioned a couple of hundred times, community and cooperation. That's how the human species has advanced and gotten where we are. Look at the internet. It is an open source technology, meaning you don't have to pay. It was just given out to the world and it just blew up. That's what's possible. And I'm excited for people to let's just do more of that.
Yeah, that's I wouldn't really say it any better myself there. I totally agree with you. I mean, I really do.
I have opinions, lots of opinions.
No way, you don't. But hey, I'm totally with you there because, like, every time I think about like just, I mean, like you're saying, I mean, AI is not necessarily the end all be all, but there's a lot of, I mean, but it does come across the bigger level is the level of greed that people or individuals are kind of forcing upon it. That's making you that kind of makes it feel like that they're like wondering why the smaller people below them are wondering like, why are you fighting for this? Like they're totally out of tune of what everyone else is wanting. And then that's what's infuriating. It's like, are you seriously can't logically see the problem of in this? All you're seeing is dollar signs, and really it's like you're not looking into the bigger picture of of just the people that are making you be the successful CEO of whatever you are.
Right? Well, and when you I was listening to Simon Sinek the other day. He's so brilliant. He was talking about Jack Welch, and when he died, the Wall Street Journal said something about him like, he made Wall Street very happy and people not very happy. And like I often pay attention to the very elderly and how they look at life, people on their deathbed and what they have to say. And I have yet to hear of anyone go, I wish I'd made more money. Like It's always like, what about my family? What about my relationships? What about the love part of it? What about the connection and the truly, truly uplifting people? And look, it's not anyone's job to lift anyone up, but to create an environment and a climate and a culture of uplifting humanity and others in general, and celebrating each other and supporting each other. And it's one of my favorite, I don't know what you call this, a parable or whatever. It's this thing where this guy, I don't know why he's touring heaven and hell, but he is. And he goes into hell, and it's gorgeous. There's these long tables, beautifully decorated with incredible food, like amazing food. And the tables everybody's sitting around the tables, but they all have these 2-foot forks and knives and spoons strapped to their hands, and they're starving because they can't get the food in their mouth. And then he goes to hell. Oh, sorry, that was hell. And then he goes to heaven, and it's identical. There's these long tables, gorgeous food, same thing, same utensils strapped to their hands, and everyone's feeding each other. And they're full and they're happy. I'm like, for me,
that's a pretty good parable. That's a really good
kind of good. Yeah, I was like, sign me up for that one. I want that one. Except the heaven side, not the other side. I don't want to live there. And right now, some countries are very much. It's like,
oh, man.
What are you creating? Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, here's my final question, and hopefully a brighter note. For the most part.
I don't think that's a dull note, because we have the option of choice every day. Not only do we have the option of choice about what we do, we have the option to choose what we pay attention to, and what you focus on grows. So when I see that stuff, that I go, nope. You don't get my attention. I will not feed you to grow you. I'm not living in denial. I get that you're there. I'm now moving my attention over here, and I choose to feed that. Because that's the world I want to live in. That's why I did this. Like, that's the world I want to live in. Yeah.
Definitely understandable, man.
Mhm.
All right. And
Yeah.
my final question to you is you've been in the voice acting industry for over 30 years and have like done virtually a lot of different kinds of things. In your eyes, like how much has changed from then to now?
Everything. I mean, some of the fundamentals have not changed at all. It's interesting. I was watching a singer the other day do her song live, and I had just finished watching Pink do a similar, acoustic live version of a song, which was mind blowing because she's the consummate professional artist, everything, joy maker, everything. And this newer person, I could see like she has not put in the time. She's a flash. She's got her moment right now, but she doesn't have the hours and hours and hours of showing up and doing the practice. The body of doing the thing and the confidence that comes from doing the thing when nobody's looking. And you
Mm,
just know you can do the thing no matter where you end up, you know? And those things about voice acting are the same. Putting in the time. Like it's that 25 cents a day, put a quarter a day in the jar, show up and do your time. Every day, every day, every day, because it builds skills. It builds confidence. It builds awareness. It builds learning. It just builds your craft. And that word, there's so much attention to flash in the pan and sudden success and going viral. And like, yeah, I know a couple people who have like viral post this and viral post that. It is not life changing. It is some
mm,
people, but it's if without that, it's not the thing that's going to make the difference. It's that steady showing up. And for those people who are those people who show up and they're steady and they're solid and amazing, that's what makes the difference for them. So that has not changed. The fact that you need to know how to act, the fact, regardless of what aspect of the industry you're working in, acting is always a bonus. The fact that you need to create a physical instrument that can do what you need it to do, that has never changed. Like take singing lessons, do breath work, like do all that stuff. Whatever your jam is, do that. Um, but what has changed is how it's done. We work
mhm.
so much more in isolation. And again, I go back here like this was designed to stop the isolation. And that has changed a lot. We used to audition in rooms with human beings, and now we're here in our own echo chamber, which can be a really difficult thing sometimes because, like I
Mhm.
said earlier, community and connection are really powerful in the in the right moments. That has changed. I will say there is so much content now. It's fantastic. The opportunities are just everywhere because I started my career in a non-union market and it was several years I worked in a non-union market. And only when I moved to LA did I fully enter the union space because I lived in what they called a right to work state. So I could do both jobs. And
Mhm.
that can be very controversial, but we are, over at Skills Hub, we're union agnostic because it's about us all holding the line for the rates, regardless of whether you're union or non-union. It's about not undercutting each other. It's about supporting each other. It's about like, I know that if we end up striking as voice actors, there's so many independent artists who are not union who will be supporting us by not taking our jobs. Like I just know it's in place. I know we are a solid, beautiful group of people. Um, so I mean, there's technology has changed, access has changed. You can create your own content now. The type of stuff we have an infographic at Skills Hub about all the different ways to make a living with your voice. There's e-learning now. There's you know audio description, like all these crazy ways to make money with your voice, and only through two or three of them are like the shiny objects of what people think about when they think about voice acting. There's so many more, and that's come with technology.
Right.
It's cool. It's an exciting time. It's a little overwhelming because we are
Mhm.
definitely at a precipice. We're at a choice point. But I think those larger cultural choices are made by all of our individual choices. And if we just take care of our own choices, it's all going to be okay.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's great, man. Jennifer, thank you, Jennifer Hale. Thank you so much for being
Yeah.
here. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
It's awesome. I could probably talk to you forever.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really and to
Yes.
everybody out there, thank you for for listening, for watching, for playing, for being there. Without you, we don't get to do this. So thank you.
That is awesome. And folks, if you wanting to definitely if you definitely love this interview with Jennifer Hale that we did today, it's probably one of my favorites, to be honest with you.
Oh, cool. Thank you. I'll take it. Thank you, Davis.
Yeah, but if you check out all the other episodes that we have that we do release on all our on our website confreaksandgeeks.com to check out the full library of everything that we have done so far. So guys, once again, this is Davis signing off. Y'all take it easy.